Hello, and welcome to this week's episode of Honest Conversations with Esther. If you're joining me here for the first time, please don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe, as this helps me with the algorithm. It helps me get this information to people who may find it useful. This week, we're going to be talking about the 15 Invaluable Laws of Growth. It was written by John C. Maxwell. It's the book I have chosen for the month of January. As usual, I have with me my trusty notebook. As I like to say, the faintest ink is better than the brightest memory. As proof of this, I actually read this book in 2016, somewhere around December 2016 and January 2017. Now, had I not written down the things that I'm going to talk about, I probably wouldn't be able to remember them correctly. So I encourage people who would like to get into the culture of reading to actually be deliberate about writing down the things that they're noting from the book that they're reading. After a week, you're likely to remember the quotes and the like, but after years, you're likely to have distorted some of the information or mixed it up with another book that you read that was similar. So, writing down sort of guarantees the accuracy of the information that you're capturing. Why the 15 Invaluable Laws of Growth, you may be asking? That's because this is one of the books that started me off on the trajectory of personal development. Also, the author, John C. Maxwell, is an incredible leader. He's a pastor. He has a leadership academy, and he's taught several people, from pastors to captains of industry to people in the army and just the general public. He's written several books and has sold millions and millions of copies worldwide. So this book answers the question about getting from where you are to where you want to be, and I thought that it was appropriate for January, seeing as most of us have finalized what we want for the year. But what happens is that most people will write down what they want at the end of the year or even 5 years, but will end up in the same place or even actually worse off. So, if I could summarize this book in one sentence, it would be that growth doesn't happen by accident. You have to be deliberate about it, you have to manage it, you have to monitor it, and you also have to be consistent. So, let's get into the book, shall we? So, number one is the law of intentionality. Growth doesn't happen by accident. You have to be intentional about putting in actions in place to ensure that growth does happen. For example, if you have two seeds, one seed is planted and the other seed isn't. The seed that's going to grow is the one that was planted. Why? Because of the law of intentionality. There was an actual person who was intentional about the growth of the seed, and they planted it in the ground and they watered it and they sprayed away if there was any pests. So the law of intentionality, you've got to have intentions. You've got to be intentional and deliberate about ensuring that you grow. The second law is the law of awareness. Perhaps the greatest advice to man is to know yourself, your strengths, your weaknesses, your limitations, and where you'd actually like to be. Be intentional about knowing yourself and being honest about what you can and cannot do. Number three, the law of your mirror. So this talks about self-esteem. How you believe you are is how you're likely to behave. And you're not likely to behave in a way that's inconsistent with what you believe about yourself. If you believe that you're worth the effort, you actually start to put it in. But if you don't believe that you're worth the effort, you're less likely to put in effort into growing yourself and bettering your life. Number four is the law of reflection. You have to be deliberate about reflecting on your actions. So here's where a lot of people lose it. Let's say you're going to a new destination. You have a roadmap somewhere about how to get there, but you only look at the map once and you just keep driving the rest of the journey. Chances are you're likely to get lost. The same happens in life with your goals and your aspirations. So at the beginning of the year, you write down what you'd like to do, but then you don't go back to look at your plan and reflect periodically about how far you've gone with the things that you like to do. So chances are you are likely to not achieve your goals. And the only time people go back to their New Year's resolution is at the end of the year. And that's a little too late because all this time has actually passed. So the book recommends that periodically and consistently you go back and check where you are with the things that you said you do, and then you course correct if somehow you found yourself going in the wrong direction. Number five is the law of consistency. You have to be consistent. Growth doesn't happen by just one huge leap and bound one step. It's about taking small steps but doing them consistently. Number 6 is the law of environment. You have to be in the right environment to grow. We can see this in nature. If you planted a seed in acid, it's likely to not grow. But if you put it in good soil and tended to it, it had the right weather conditions, it's likely to grow. The same is for people. You know, you'd like to grow in your career, but there's certain organizations we have to say have a very toxic culture, and there's no room for growth for you there. You're likely to not grow. So it's important that you change your environment, your physical environment, and also your environment speaks to the kind of company that you keep. Who are the people that you surround yourself with? Are they full of negative energy? Are they going nowhere fast? Are they spending their time discussing other people's business instead of talking about ways in which they could grow? So you have to be careful about your environment. Also, your environment goes further to speak about things like what you allow yourself to be influenced by. What are you always watching on the internet? Are you scrolling through Instagram feeds, of Insta models, making you feel uncomfortable about the way you are about yourself, or just watching other people's very manicured lifestyle on the internet? And is it influencing how you feel about yourself, your self-esteem? Are you focused on watching reality shows about desperate housewives of Ndola, and how's that contributing to your mindset, the way you think, the kind of language you speak? So manage your environment. Law number 7 is the law of design. So you've got to have a plan. Design the plan that you want to use to get you to where you want to be. Law number 8 is the law of pain. So specifically, this just says good management of bad experiences leads to growth. You have to choose a posture and stance. And right from the onset, you have to realize that bad experiences will come in life, but what you have to be focused on is saying, no matter what happens, I'll come out on top of this, and I'll be better and stronger after this. I always like to say that this too shall pass. Tough times don't last, but tough people do. Number 9 is the law of the ladder. Your character growth determines the height of your personal growth. Ambition requires guidance, insights, and influence, and your habits determine your character. Number 10 is the law of the rubber band. Growth stops when you lose the tension between where you are and where you want to be. So this just speaks to the fact that once you feel like you've arrived, like you know it all, then you stop growing. I always say you can't pour into a full cup. Everything will just spill out. So you have to remain a learner, remain trainable, stay humble. There's always more you could learn in your field, even from the person who you think is bottommost in an organization. They actually have something new to teach you. You don't know everything, never feel like you have arrived. Number 11 is trade-offs. This specifically talks about a concept similar to what goes on in economics, and this is the concept of trade-offs. And this is a concept, there's a word in particular I'm trying to remember that we used to use in economics. And, okay, I'll put it down there if I remember. So this is called, yes, I remembered, opportunity costs. So the opportunity, you have to cost and say, what am I willing to lose in order to get what I want? So in order to read more, I had to say I have to be home early on the weekends. I have to choose to lose spending more time out with friends on the weekend and stay home and ensure that I'm consistent with my 1 hour of reading every single day. So what are you willing to give up to get the things that you want to get? There's always a trade-off. There's no such thing as a free lunch. You must be willing to pay the price of your goals. Are you willing to work harder? Are you willing to spend less time with a certain crowd? Know that there's always a price for your success and be willing to pay it. Number 12 is the law of curiosity. Ask important questions. Always be curious. You don't know everything about a particular subject. Number 13 is the law of modeling, and this says you have to get a mentor in your field. So it's hard to improve when you have no one else to follow. So a good mentor is a person who's a worthy example. They're available. They have proven experience in your field. They possess wisdom. They provide friendship and support. And they're a coach who makes a difference in people's lives. Law number 14 is the law of expectation. Growth increases your capacity. Stop working blindly and start doing what works. Start thinking, can I? Stop thinking, can I do it? And start thinking, how can I do it? Stop thinking one door and start thinking many doors. Try things outside your comfort zone. Do more than is expected. At work, show up and do a lot more than they expect of you. and do important things daily. I always like to say some people are just busy, they're not running a business. So be deliberate about doing things which are important to your particular field at work. You could show up literally from 8 to 17 hours. If you're a salesperson, you could show up from 8 to 17 hours. You're just sitting at the office at the computer. But unless you're actually making cold calls, you've actually made a single sale. All those Excel things you're looking at make no sense because they're not feeding into what you're actually supposed to be doing, which is selling. So start doing important things. Do what actually matters. Number 15 is the law of contribution. Growing yourself enables you to grow others. Don't be a reservoir. When you learn, be a river. A reservoir holds, but a river flows out. So share the information that you have learned with others. Um, don't be stiff. Don't let other people own you. Define success by sowing into others. What more can I give instead of what can you reap? And focus on self development and fulfillment. I always say you can only give what you have. So this has been the 15 invaluable laws of growth. I post here every Sunday. I'll see you next week on Sunday with the new episode of Honest Conversations with Esther. You can also follow me on Instagram. My handle is Esther, ASTAR underscore Miss Hills. So let me know what you think about the book. Share it with your friends who may find it useful. And speak to me in the comments section. I'll be readily available to answer your questions and reply. I'll see you in the next episode of Honest Conversations with Esther.